Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. This is my weekly Wednesday video in which I choose my top 5 favorite cards of a particular player. At the end of last week's video, I spun the wheel of names and it landed on Hank Aaron. Now, up to this point, I keep saying that it's been really hard to choose my top 5 favorite cards of the players that have been featured so far in this series. But I have to say that Hank Aaron has been the most difficult player so far for me to choose my top 5 favorite cards of. I did manage to fairly easily get it down to my 10 favorite cards of his, but whittling that down in half to my top 5 favorite was really a challenge. Any of those 10 cards could have easily been on my top 5. In fact, if you ask me which are my top 5 favorite Hank Aaron cards 6 months from now, I may have a slightly different answer. Now, here's where I want all of you to participate as well. In the description of this video, I'll have a link to the PSA Basic Set Registry for Hank Aaron. That includes his Topps cards from 1954 to 1976 and his only Bowman card, his 55 Bowman card. In all, there are 24 cards to choose from to select your top 5 favorite. So in the comments, would love to know which are your top 5 favorite Hank Aaron cards from that list of 24 cards. And if you could rank them from 1 being your most favorite to 5 being your 5th favorite, it'll help me compile the results for next week. Now, outside of those 24 cards, feel free to give some honorable mentions, and I will mention those cards in my video for next week as well. Now, before I get to my top 5 favorite Hank Aaron cards, last week the player featured was Pete Rose. So I'm going to go over a summary of all of your responses for what are your top 5 favorite Pete Rose cards. Then I'll get into my top 5 favorite Hank Aaron cards. I'll show off the Hank Aaron cards that I have in my collection, and we'll wrap things up with spinning the wheel of names again to see which player will be featured in next week's video. So last week, 25 of you replied in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite Pete Rose cards. In fact, this is the most number of comments and responses of any player in the series so far. So thank you to all of you who replied in the comments. Let's see if we can get more people commenting on which are your top 5 favorite Hank Aaron cards for this week. But in terms of the top 5 voted cards from all of your responses, out of the 25 responses, 20 of you chose as one of your top 5 his 1964 Topps card. 13 of you chose his 1965 Topps card. 10 of you chose his 1975 Topps card. And then 9 of you chose his 1974 Topps card and his 1976 Topps card. Now, the cards that didn't get any votes were his 1969, 70, 80, 82, 85, and 87 Topps cards. Now, there were some honorable mentions of cards that you like of Pete Rose that would maybe make your top 5 favorite. So those include his 1969 Topps All-Star card, his 1972 Topps In Action card, his 1980 Topps Highlights card, his 81 Donruss card, his 83 Fleer card, and finally, one of you chose his 1989 Topps card. So out of the top 5 vote getters, how did those cards rank? And let's see how it compared to my top 5 favorite Pete Rose cards. Well, at number 5, his 1976 Topps card, and I had that actually as my number 2 favorite card. And number 4, you chose his 1974 Topps card, which I did not have in my top 5 list. At number 3, you had his 1975 Topps card. I had that 4th on my list. At number 2, his 1965 Topps card. I had that as my 3rd favorite Pete Rose card. And the general consensus, which I had a feeling was going to be the case, the majority of you chose his 1964 Topps card as your favorite Pete Rose card, which also matched my favorite Pete Rose card. All right, let's get into the Hank Aaron cards. Again, I based my choices on the PSA Basic Set Registry, which includes 24 cards from 1954 to 1976. All his Topps cards, including plus his 1955 Bowman card. So at number 5, I chose his 1964 Topps card. Now, what I like about this card is, and many cards within the 1964 Topps set, is that the player's image goes beyond the main picture there and into the general border of the card. It almost gives it like a 3D look. Just like that little smile of Hank Aaron. You can tell the sort of like the gray flannel. You can pick it out there in the image of the card up from his uniform. And there's something about just that almost lime green color for the Braves and that bottom border. To me, just that color combination goes really, really well. And the card just pops with his portrait image there. So I chose his 1964 Topps card as my 5th favorite Hank Aaron card. At number 4, I went with his 1955 Bowman. Just that image there, the color photograph. You can see the stadium in the background. It's a posed image, but you can just imagine that it's a close-up shot of him, getting ready in the outfield to, potentially make a play if the ball's hit to him. You can just see the great Braves uniform from the 1950s. To me, it's just an overall great image of Hank Aaron featured in that color TV frame that the 1955 Bowman set is famous for. At number 3, I chose his 1962 Topps card. There's just something about this card that I just absolutely love. You have that wood grain border, the image there of still what looks like a fairly young Hank Aaron. Again, stadium in the background. Looks like there's actually fans, if you can sort of picture it. Looks like there's fans in the outfield stadium there. There looks like there's someone at third base. This could be during maybe spring training. I'm not sure if it would be a major league game, but could be a picture taken while during pregame warmups or something. Just a really cool image of Hank Aaron and just the overall design. I always look at that 62 Topps card in my collection as one of my favorites. So I have that as my 3rd favorite Hank Aaron card. At number 2, I went with his 1958 Topps card, and I chose the yellow name variation. Now, in the PSA Basic Set Registry is just his 1958 Topps, so that could include either the white name or the yellow name variation. Now, I don't own the yellow name variation. It's a little bit rarer, a little bit harder to find. But I think the yellow name version, that dark green solid background of the 58 Topps set, the red border down at the bottom, the little banner there, the Milwaukee Braves also in yellow. You got the Braves, mascot logo with the green, the yellow background. Just all those different color combinations to me just really work, and it's a great image of Hank Aaron. And I've always loved the 58 Topps set because of that solid colored border and the background, and this green really makes the card pop. in at number 1, which sort of like Pete Rose in his 1964 Topps card, which I figured would be in most people's at least top 5, maybe not their number 1, but at least in the top 5. I think my choice for number 1, my favorite Hank Aaron card, will probably be on most people's top 5 list, and that is, of course, his 1954 Topps rookie card. Again, like the 58 Topps card with the green background, you have that great orange background, the really close-up portrait shot of Hank Aaron there, and again, the Braves logo with the yellow background and the blues and the reds and whites, and that second image, that black and white image of Hank Aaron there, and that facsimile autograph. Just everything about this 1954 Topps set in general, but specifically this Hank Aaron card, just is just a beautiful looking card. And I think it was Eric, those back pages, I think he's famous for saying there's never a bad time to own or buy a 1954 Topps Hank Aaron rookie card. And this is actually going to be sort of my target card, hopefully, cross your fingers, that I may be able to pick up for my Hank Aaron run at this year's National. So I have this card as my favorite Hank Aaron card. So let's get to my Hank Aaron cards in my collection. All right, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going into all the details of my Hank Aaron cards. I have almost his entire playing days run. I am missing 4 cards. His rookie card, I'm missing his 1957, his 1960, and his 1963 cards. So I'm going to show the ones that I have in my collection here, just fairly quickly here, so I don't keep this video too long. And most of you have seen most of these cards before, but we'll start off with his 55 Bowman. And I'll show the backs of these as well for some of you that are not familiar with the backs. A lot of us like to show off the front of the cards, but you don't always get a chance to see the backs of the cards. There's his 55 Bowman, then his 55 Topps. This was a pickup at last year's National. And there is the back of that. Then we have his 1956 Topps card. This is the gray back version. And there's the back of that one. Then I said I'm missing his 1957. So here's his 1958, the white letter variation. Oh, there we go. What I like about this one is this copy here, as you can see from the card that I showed off as my second favorite. That version had, and you often find like those little print dots, those little fish eyes somewhere within the solid border. There may be a small little one there, but other than that, it's a nice solid green background. And here is the back. Love these cartoons from the 1950s on some of these cards. They did these with the sole purpose for kids to learn and read and get to know the players a little bit more, just beyond their statistics. All right, here's his 1959. And the back as well, the Christmas background, as I call it, the red and green. Then we have his again, missing his 1960. Here's his 1961. Man, I don't necessarily care for the Braves currently because they're rivals of the New York Mets, but you just can't deny the great uniform of the Braves in the 50s and 60s. And here is the back of that one. Moving on to the 62, which is in my top 5 list. Again, there's something about, and I'm sure you have cards in your collection, whether it be Hall of Famers or not, and it doesn't matter who the player is, but you just look at the card and there's just something about it that you truly love, and this 62 Topps Hank Aaron card just has always spoken to me. And here is the back of that one. So continuing with the sort of cartoon on the back. Then not one of his regular issue cards, but I don't have his 1963 base card, but I do have this Power Plus card with Ernie Banks. What a great combination. And there is the background there. There's that one. Then moving on to the 64 Topps. There we go. And the back. Then the one card that I don't have in a PSA slab, which is one of the ones that eventually I will cross over. So when I do get the last 4 remaining Hank Aaron cards, if it's before I cross this one over, technically on the PSA registry list, I won't have a complete set, but I do have the card. Is 1965 Topps. So if I can get that to focus. There we go. And there's the back of that one. Then here is his 1966 Topps card. Not one of my favorites. This wasn't one of the top 10 that I had to narrow down to my top 5. To me, it's somewhat of a plain looking card, but hey, it's still a Hank Aaron card. And there's the back. Then his 1967. The batting cage in the background. The back of that one. Moving on to his 1968 Topps card. And if you notice, for his 1969 Topps card, same image. Just a little, this one's a little closer image than this one, but his 69 has the basic same image, but the 69, general set design. And there is the back. His 1970, probably maybe my least favorite Hank Aaron card. Then we have his 71. There's the back. Is 72. 73, bit of an action shot there. By that time, I'm not sure what they had him listed here in 72. Did they show the position? I'm not sure if they showed what position. Oh, yeah, there it is, first base. Okay. I was wondering, I wasn't sure when he transitioned from the outfield to first base because I noticed he's first base there for the Braves. And there's the back. Love the centering on the back of that one. Really hard with the 73s. Then we have his 74, pronouncing him the all-time home run king, even though at the start of the 74 season, he did not quite break Babe Ruth's record. It was into the 74 season that he did that, but then his 1975 highlights card. Then his base regular card number, he was the bookend in the set. That was card number 1. This is card number 660. Then 2 more cards here. We have the 1976 Topps record breaker. Most runs batted in lifetime. And there is the list of, at the time, most runs batted in leaders. You had Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, Jimmy Fox, Willie Mays, Mel Lott, Ted Williams, and so on. There's that. And finally, his last Topps Playing Days card is 1976 base card. And all those year by year, oh, if I can get to focus, there we go. Sort of. Really hard to tell. I can maybe get it up close there, but somewhat hard to read with the green background there, the red or the black ink on the dark green background. Sort of hard to see all the individual stats, especially with the glare here. But there's his last Playing Days Topps card. So let's go to the Wheel of Names now and see which player is going to be featured for next week. All right, on the right-hand side here, you can see the remaining names to be chosen from the Wheel of Names. So let's see which player I'll be looking at for next week. And again, this is a final reminder. In the description of this video will be the PSA Basic Set Registry checklist, a link to that. So you can choose your top 5 favorite cards from the 24 cards in that checklist. And again, feel free to let me know some honorable mentions outside of that 24 card list in the comments. So again, would love to know what are your top 5 favorite Hank Aaron cards. So without further ado, let's spin the Wheel of Names and see which player is selected. And it's going to be, it switched over to Lou Brock. This one has, I believe, a much shorter checklist of cards to choose from, but Lou Brock has some great looking cards. So it's going to be another fun episode next week for me to choose my top 5 favorite Lou Brock cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.